A very good evening, aspirants. Welcome to daily newspaper analysis of Shankar IAS Academy. Displayed here are the list of news articles that we are going to discuss today. As you can see, we have chosen news articles from different newspapers. So without much delay, let us get into the first news article discussion.
Before entering our discussion, there is an important announcement. Are you ready to ace UPSC Prelims? Welcome to Shankar IAS Academy Telegram Live Series, your ultimate guide to UPSC Prelims preparation. Join us for our first Telegram live session with Mr. Satyakrishnan. He is here to share invaluable insights on maximizing the last 10 weeks for UPSC Prelims preparation. Discover the secrets to crafting a rock-solid plan, setting daily and weekly targets, and dwelling deep into the previous year questions of UPSC. But that's not all. We will also dwell deep into the aspects of emotional management, because acing the prelims isn't just about knowledge, it's about mindset too. So, don't miss this chance to supercharge your UPSC journey. Tune into Shankar Academy's Telegram's live series on April 10, 2024 at 7 p.m. on Shankar IAS Academy Telegram channel. The link to Shankar IAS Academy Telegram channel has been shared in our description and pinned in our comment section. Please do check it out.
Look at this question. This question asks you to find which of the following heavy industries can be decarbonized using green hydrogen. See, to answer this question, you have to know two important things. Firstly, what is heavy industry? Secondly, how green hydrogen can help in decarbonizing these industries. So what are heavy industries? See, heavy industries are those which use heavy and bulky raw materials and produce heavy goods in large quantity. For example, iron and steel, copper, smelting, and etc. So from the way of production itself, we can say that heavy industries are particularly carbon industries and their emissions are very hard to abate. So now what is green hydrogen? See, hydrogen itself is a gas that on its own doesn't have any color. So when we talk about green hydrogen, we are not talking about the color of the gas, but how it's made and how environmentally friendly that process is. So how green hydrogen is produced? See, green hydrogen is produced by splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. That is splitting H2O into H2 and O2. This is done through a process called electrolysis. Here, the key thing that makes hydrogen green is using renewable energy sources like wind or solar power to run the electrolysis process. Since these energy sources don't emit carbon, the whole process is much cleaner for the environment. So here comes a question, how different is green hydrogen from the grey hydrogen? See, the big difference between green and grey hydrogen is that grey hydrogen contributes to carbon emission, making it less eco-friendly. Recently, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has decided to define green hydrogen as having a well-to-gate emission of not more than 2 kg CO2 equivalent. So what are all the advantages of green hydrogen? Firstly, it is 100% sustainable. No greenhouse gas is emitted during combustion or during the production process. So it can provide energy security for a longer time without affecting the environment. Secondly, the green hydrogen can be used as a fuel in train, ships and planes that are modified to run on hydrogen fuel. This in turn eliminates the emission of greenhouse gases from vehicles. Thirdly, green hydrogen can be used as a raw material for the chemical, petrochemical, cement and steel industries. This replaces the use of fossil fuels, which in turn reduces greenhouse gas emissions. So these are all various facts that you have to remember about green hydrogen. So now look at this question. In how many of the following heavy industries green hydrogen can play a significant role in decarbonizing? So the correct option for this particular question is option C. Look at this previous question. It mentions about different types of awards which were in news in that respective year. So to understand this question, first you have to know about the awards. So first let us understand about the awards and then try to answer this particular question. The first award mentioned here is Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award. See, it is the highest sporting honor of India and it is awarded annually by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. The recipient or recipients are all selected by a committee constituted by the ministry and is honored for their spectacular and most outstanding performance in the field of sports over a period of 4 years at international level. As of 2020, the award comprises a medallion, a certificate and a cash prize of 25 lakh rupees. Know that legendary sports figures like MC Mary Kom, S. Mirabai Chanu, PV Sindhu, Saina Nehwal, Vijayendra Singh, Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, amongst all others, have received this highest sporting honor in the past. Secondly, the Arjuna Award. It is officially known as Arjuna Awards for Outstanding Performance in Sports and Games. It is the second highest sporting honor of India. The recipients were selected by a committee constituted by the ministry and are honored for their good performance in the field of sports over a period of 4 years at the international level and for showing qualities of leadership, sportsmanship and a sense of discipline. Remember, the first Arjuna Award was conferred upon India's football Olympian P.K. Banerjee, who was among the 20 recipients of the Arjuna Award in its inaugural edition in 1961. Hockey player Anna Lumsden was the first woman Arjuna Award winner. Thirdly, the Dronacharya Award. It is officially known as the Dronacharya Award for Outstanding Coaches in Sports and Games. It is sports coaching honor of India. The award is named after Drona, often referred as Dronacharya or Guru Drona. He is a character from the Sanskrit epic Mahabharata of ancient India. Here the recipients are selected by a committee constituted by the ministry and are honored to have done outstanding and meritorious work on a consistent basis and enabled sportsperson to excel in international events over a period of 4 years. Remember, the first woman to win the Dronacharya Award was athletics coach Renu Kohli in 2002. This award is given for both recent accomplishments and lifetime contributions. Apart from this, wrestling coach Balchandra Bhaskar Bhavat, boxing mentor Om Prakash Bharadwaj and legendary athletics coach Om Nambiar all have credited for molding Indian sprint queen P.T. Usha's career. They were amongst the first Dronacharya Award winners in 1985 when the Dronacharya Award was initiated. Finally, Rashtriya Khel Protsahan Puraskar. It is a sports honor of India. The award recognizes the involvement of corporates, voluntary organizations and sports control board in the promotion and development of sports in the country over the previous 3 years. So from this discussion you can understand that statement 1 and 3 is alone correct, second statement and fourth statement are incorrect statements. So the correct answer for this particular question is option B, only 2 pair. Look at this editorial article from today's newspaper. It talks about suicide, particularly among young people in India. There are various factors including mental health problems, academic stress, family issues and substance abuse contributing to suicide. Despite the complexity and multifaceted nature of suicide, the author says it is preventable through strategies like education reform, improved mental health services and societal changes to reduce stigma and discrimination. This is the crux of the news article given here. In this context, let us understand some of the important points from the news article using our mains answer writing discussion. Let me read out the question for you. Explain why suicide among young women is increasing in Indian society. This topic can be asked in GS paper 1. Actually, it was asked in 2023 GS paper 1 in mains. Here the main demand of the question is to write about the factors which causes rising suicide among women. So in the introduction part, you can give a brief intro about women's suicide in India with supporting data. For example, you can write that suicide is the leading cause of mortality for women in India. The National Crime Records Bureau (NCRB) reports that every hour one Indian woman of age 15 to 39 years takes her own life. This is a serious concern for India in protecting our future generation. So you can write these points in the introduction part and you can move on to the main body of the answer. Here you can write that there are several complex and interconnected issues result in suicide of women as follows. Firstly, the family problem. More than 1/3 of all women suicides is due to family problems like isolation of women from the outside in the name of safety, then dowry related abuse and etc. Next is due to their age gap, that is 15 to 39 years. Young women are comparatively more vulnerable to the social customs and traditions due to their family sexual identity. For example, over 60% of rape victims are aged 18 to 30 years. Next factor is domestic violence. As per NFHS 5 data, 31% of married women faced spousal violence. The mental, physical, and sexual abuse by the spouse results in severe mental and physical illness for women. Then the early marriage, it affects the education and exposes young girls to abusive marital relationship. According to UNICEF, suicide is the leading cause of death for girls aged 15 to 19 in India. Next is lack of social and financial independence coupled with restrictions on movement outside homes increases hopelessness among young women. For example, in 2021, unemployment was cited as a cause of 5% of total suicide by women as per NCRB data. Then disparities in access to education, employment and decision can lead to feelings of hopelessness and frustration. Then the impact of modernity on marriage. See, the rise of love marriages, particularly intercaste and living in relationship, has led to individualism but also has increased loneliness in young women. Next may be excessive social media use that leads to unrealistic comparisons, cyberbullying and isolation. This increases the depression and suicidal tendencies. So these are all some of the crucial points that you can mention with supporting data. Now moving on to the second part, here you can write some of the initiatives that help to curb suicide. Firstly, you can write about National Suicide Prevention Strategy. It was launched in November 2022 with aim to reduce the suicide rate by 10% by 2030. Second, we have decriminalized the suicide with our Mental Healthcare Act 2017. This act recognized suicide as a cry for help rather than a penal offense. Thirdly, we have launched the National Mental Health Program, which aims to ensure the availability and accessibility of minimum mental health care for all. Fourthly, Prevention of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. It was launched to provide legal framework for women to seek protection and redress against domestic violence. Along with this, the government has supported the establishment of helplines and crisis intervention centers. This offers counseling and support to individuals in distress, including women at risk of suicide. So you can write these points in the second part of your answer. Now moving on to the conclusion part, you can write that suicide among women require comprehensive and targeted interventions. Continued efforts and societal support are essential to further reduce suicide rate and improve the mental health and well-being of women across the country. So you can write these points and conclude your answer. So in this news article discussion, we saw in detail about what are all the factors that contribute to the suicide among young women, and then we saw what are all the initiatives of government that is helping the women to overcome the suicidal thought. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Look at this article from yesterday's newspaper. The Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE, in India has introduced a new executive order starting from April 1. This order is called the Approved Models and Manufacturers of Solar Photovoltaic Modules Requirements for Compulsory Registration Order 2019. So in this news article discussion, let us understand what is this new rules is about. Firstly, know that this new rules demands inspection by the National Institute of Solar Energy. So the module makers will have to allow inspection of their manufacturing facilities by the National Institute of Solar Energy. If the manufacturing facility is approved by the institute, then the facility gets a certificate that it is legitimately manufacturing solar panel within its premises and not importing modules. Secondly, there will be incentives for approved companies. See, the approved companies will be eligible to compete for the government's tenders for its flagship solar energy programs and the recently announced PM Solar Rooftop Scheme. Now, you might ask, what is the aim of this particular order? See, the purpose of this order is to encourage the solar module manufacturing industry in India. It mandates certain requirements for the registration of solar photovoltaic models and manufacturers. The order aims to streamline and regulate the production of solar panels in the country. The MNRE introduced this order first in 2019. As I said earlier, it requires solar module makers to allow inspection of their manufacturing facility by the National Institute of Solar Energy. Being on the approved list certifies a company as a genuine solar panel manufacturer, distinguishing it from mere importer or assemblers. So here you might have a doubt, what is the need for this new rules? See, this step was necessary because India's solar industry relies heavily on imported solar module from China despite claiming to have an indigenous industry. Solar modules are made up of multiple solar panels which in turn are assembles of solar cells. India aims to significantly increase solar installation by 2030, but local production of solar cells and modules falls short of demand. So India also lacks the capacity to produce raw materials like ingots and wafers for solar cells, relying on import for these components. So this new rules aims to limit imports from China, which dominates about 80% of the global solar supply. The strained relation between India and China also play a role in this decision. Also, India plans to get around half of its electricity from non-fossil fuel sources by 2030, aiming for about 500 gigawatt. Out of this, at least 280 gigawatt is expected to come from solar power. This requires addition of about 40 gigawatt of solar capacity every year until 2030. However, in the past 5 years, only about 13 gigawatt of solar capacity have been created. So the challenge is that meeting these target demands more solar panels and component cells than what India's domestic industry can currently provide. So this is why the new rules has been brought. So these are all certain facts that you have to remember about this approval models and manufacturers of solar photovoltaic module order 2019. So these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Look at this news article. It states that recently government has decided to transfer certain portion of land under the authority of the cantonment board to local bodies. So in this backdrop, let us understand the basics about cantonment board in India and its administrative provinces from prelims perspective. So what is this cantonment board? See, cantonment board are municipal bodies that govern civilian areas in proximity to military installations in India. They are responsible for providing civic amenities and maintaining infrastructure in these areas. Now let us quickly go through the statutory and constitutional provisions regarding it. See, the cantonment boards are established under the provisions of the Cantonment Act 2006, which is enacted by the Parliament of India. Article 243p of the Indian Constitution provides for the establishment of cantonment boards and their administration. However, cantonment boards are not constituted under Part 9 of the Constitution, which deals with municipalities. Talking about the administrative provisions, see, cantonment boards are responsible for providing various civic amenities like water supply, sanitation, road, street lighting, and primary education in the cantonment area. Here, the administration of cantonment board is carried out by a Chief Executive Officer (CEO) who is appointed by the Defence Ministry. Also know that cantonment board consists of elected members as well as nominated members. The elected members are elected by the residents of the cantonment area, while the nominated members include military representatives and government officials. Apart from this, the President of India appoints a member who is typically a senior military officer to represent the military's interest in the cantonment board as per the provisions of the Cantonment Act 2006. Also know that the President appointed member holds a significant role in decision making processes related to the development and maintenance of infrastructure in the cantonment area. So in this news article discussion, we saw in brief about cantonment board, what are the cantonment area, how they are governed, and their administrative setup. So these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Look at this article from Indian Express newspaper. This article talks about a dam built by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, which served as a boundary wall of Jahanpana, which is the fourth city of Delhi. So in this backdrop, let us revise about Muhammad bin Tughlaq regime from the prelims perspective. See, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the Sultan of Delhi, ruled Delhi from 1325 to 1351. He is known for his ambitious but often ill-fated administrative reforms and policies. So first, let us see about some of the administrative reforms. Some of the administrative reforms includes centralizing power and improving governance. He established a sophisticated intelligence network and reorganized the tax system. However, his methods were often arbitrary. For example, he imposed heavy taxes on the agricultural sector, leading to widespread discontent among peasants. Apart from this, he undertook ambitious irrigation projects to improve agricultural productivity. One notable project was the construction of canals to divert water from rivers to arid regions. However, many of these projects were poorly planned and executed, leading to wastage of resources and environmental degradation. For example, the construction of canals sometimes resulted in flooding and waterlogging of fields. Apart from this, he was a patron of art and architecture. He commissioned the construction of several notable buildings, including forts, mosques, and palaces. One of the most important architectural project of his regime was the construction of Tughlaqabad Fort in Delhi. The fort was designed to be impregnable but suffered from structural issues due to the poor quality of construction materials. Apart from this, Muhammad bin Tughlaq's most infamous mistake was his decision to shift the capital of Delhi Sultanate from Delhi to Daulatabad, which is present-day Aurangabad. This forced migration of the population was a colossal failure, resulting in immense human suffering and economic losses. Another significant administrative error was Muhammad bin Tughlaq's introduction of token currency. He replaced the existing copper coinage with brass and silver tokens, hoping to stabilize the economy. However, the scheme backfired, leading to rampant counterfeiting and inflation. Apart from this, he embarked on several military campaigns to expand the boundaries of his empire. However, many of these campaigns were poorly planned and ended in failure. For example, his expedition to conquer the Deccan region was met with strong resistance from local rulers, leading to a prolonged and costly conflict with little territorial gain. So overall, Muhammad bin Tughlaq regime is characterized by ambitious but often misguided policies, which ultimately weakened the Delhi Sultanate and contributed to its decline. So these are all certain facts that you have to remember about Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So displayed here is the mains practice question for you today. Just go through the question, try to answer it in the comment section. With this, we came to the end of the news article discussion. If you like the video, hit like, do comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Now, thank you so much for listening.